Hello everyone, welcome back to Atreyu Crochet. So I have been getting numerous requests, so many that I am having a difficult time keeping up with your requests. And I'm someone who I don't really like to have very long to-do lists, especially for a channel like this one, because I know you guys are actually waiting on these videos. Like, you've made the request because you want to make that particular item. So I'm going to start a series with this video, today's video, and it's going to kind of be like one of those choose your own adventure books. Okay, so this first video will be how to make a hat using the bean stitch, aka the cluster stitch. Okay, because I got a request from one of you guys to have a video showing how to make a hat, because I showed you how you can make a scarf using that stitch. So I'm going to use today's video to check off that request so that you see how to make a hat using the bean stitch or cluster stitch. Okay, and this video will serve as the foundation for the next videos. Okay, so depending on the type of hat, beanie hat, slouchy hat, tam, gorro, you can, from this video, after making this hat, choose one of those. Okay, so this is the foundation video. This will give you the very basic, and it's enough in and of itself. But if you want to, for example, I got a request to make an Applejack, also aka Newsboys type of hat. I'm going to be building off of this video to show you how to do that. Okay, so watch today's video, and then there'll be more videos to come in the series showing you different places that you can take your basic hat after today's video. Hopefully that makes sense. It's kind of confusing. Let's get to it. Things you will need include a pair of scissors. You'll need some yarn, and we're going to be doing the bean stitch, aka cluster stitch. It uses a lot of yarn, so get you a nice big skein. I'll leave a link to this in the description. You will need a darning weaving tapestry needle. Okay, and then you're going to need a crochet hook. This medium 4 yarn calls for 5.5 millimeters, and that's I, and that is also US. Okay, so remember that. Also, for some of you, if you're wondering how many yards or meters, this is what, 440 yards, 402 meters. This is a 7-ounce one, 197 grams. Okay, so yeah, hopefully I have answered all of those questions so I don't get them in the comments. Alright, now let's get to crocheting. So we're going to start with a slip knot as we normally do. We have our yarn, we wrap it around our finger, twist, exchange. Now wrap this around your finger that way and hold it. We're going to pull this one over that one and off the finger while pulling up on the one that's still on your finger. Now we're going to insert our size I 5.5 millimeter, that is US, crochet hook into the loop, and we're going to pull to tighten. Okay, so now what we're going to do is chain 1. So 1. Okay, now we're going to pull up on the loop like that. So when they say pull up, you have your normal tension, right? Pull up is to basically give yourself some slack. Okay, and we're going to yarn over and go into that chain like that. Yarn over, pull through to the front, and we have 3 loops. 1, 2, 3. Yarn over, re-enter the chain. Yarn over, pull through to the front. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops. Yarn over, re-enter the chain. Yarn over, pull through to the front. Now we're going to have what? 7 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yarn over one more time, re-enter the chain. Yarn over, pull through to the front, and we should have 9 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay? Yarn over and go through all 9 loops. It will help you if you turn your hook that way so that you can go through the loops without splitting your yarn like that. Okay? And now we chain 1. So we've just created our first cluster bean stitch. Alright, let's make another one. Yarn over, enter the chain, yarn over, pull through to the front. Keep it nice and loose, give yourself slack. That's 1. Yarn over, go back in there. Yarn over, pull through to the front. That's the second time we've done it. So 2. Yarn over, re-enter the same chain. Yarn over, pull through to the front. Give yourself slack. That's the third time. We have one more time. Yarn over, re-enter the chain. Yarn over, pull through to the front. And that's the fourth time. Remember, we should have 9 loops on our crochet hook at this point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're going to, and this tail wants to be in the way, so we can just put it to the back out of the way. We're going to yarn over, turn our crochet hook, and go through all 9 loops, and then we're going to chain 1. Okay? We're going to make 2 more cluster stitches into that same chain, that chain 1. Okay? So yarn over, enter, yarn over, pull through to the front. 1. And remember, keep it loose. Yarn over, enter, yarn over, pull through to the front. 2. Yarn over, enter the chain, yarn over, pull through to the front. 3. Yarn over, enter the chain, yarn over, pull through to the front. That's the fourth time. We have 9 loops. We'll yarn over, turn our hook that way, and go through all 9 loops. Alright, now we chain 1. We have one more to make. So we'll yarn over, enter the chain, yarn over, pull through to the front. 1. Yarn over, re-enter the chain, yarn over, pull through to the front. 2. Yarn over, re-enter the chain, yarn over, pull to the front. 3. And then yarn over, re-enter the chain, yarn over, pull through to the front, and that's 4. 4 times we've gone into there. Okay? Now, you guys, we are going to yarn over and go through all 9 loops very easily, and then we're going to chain 1. Okay, so round 1 has 4 bean stitches or 4 clusters. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're back around, and here's the top of it. It might be difficult to see, right? But here's the top. See, that's the top of that bean stitch. That's where we're going to slip stitch in. So we've already chained 1. We're going to slice the icing off the top of the first bean stitch, yarn over, pull all the way through like that. All right, you guys, now we are on round 2. Round 2 is going to be an increase round, okay? But we're not going to chain any to get us up to the height of the round, okay? We're going to give ourselves some slack, so pull up on the loop. When you hear crocheters say pull up, it just means to give yourself slack, okay? And right in that same place where we slip stitch, which is the top of the first bean stitch of round 1, that's where we're going to put another bean stitch, okay? Every stitch in round 2 will get 2 stitches, so 2 bean stitches. So we have round 1 4 bean stitches. That means round 2 is going to have a total of 8 bean stitches once we're done. Alright, so we pulled up. Now let's get to beaning. So yarn over, enter, yarn over, pull through to the front. 1. Yarn over, enter. 2. Yarn over, enter. 3. Yarn over, enter. 4. Yarn over, go through all. Okay, and now chain 1. Alright, now you might be wondering, because I chained 1 and that means I'm about to go to the next one, but you might be wondering, why didn't you put a second bean stitch in there, right? Well, it's because I'm going to put that second one when I get back around, okay? So for now, that one will only get 1, but we're going to come back to it, so don't worry. Alright, so now we go to the next bean stitch. As you see, it might be folded over because of the nature of the stitch, so just kind of, there's the top right there. There's the top, so you can kind of, that's the top. You can kind of see it's folded over. Just kind of roll it up like that. Okay, you can even put your darning weaving tapestry needle in like that, just so you see clearly where to go. So we've chained 1, and now we're going to go in here. Slice the icing off the top of the cake, top of the bean stitch, yarn over, pull through, pull up. Okay, that's 1. Now we have 3 more times to do that. Go back in there, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over and go through all 9 loops. Okay? And now we're going to immediately go back in there. We're going to chain 1. So chain 1 and then go back into that same bean stitch and do it again. So that's 1. Do that again. Okay. It's 2. I'm making my movements exaggerated so you can see. 3 to give myself slack. 4. Yarn over. Go through all 9 stitches. Chain 1. Okay, so now that 1 bean stitch, which is there, has these 2 bean stitches. Okay. Alright, the next bean stitch is here. It's kind of folded over. Don't worry about that. We'll get it together, but that's the top of the bean stitch. So we'll yarn over, slice the icing off the top of the bean stitch, and start. 1, give ourselves slack. 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, go through all 9 loops. Alright, chain 1. But remember, every bean stitch gets 2 bean stitches, so we got to go back in there and do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, chain 1. Alright, so it's growing. That bean stitch right there has 2. That bean stitch has 2. This bean stitch over here, that was the first one, only has 1, but we're going to put the second bean in there once we get around. Okay, so continue putting 2 bean stitches in every bean stitch around. Okay, we only have this bean stitch to put 2 in, and then we'll be back to the beginning where we're going to put that second bean stitch. You know what, I'm going to stay on just because this is kind of weird to look at. Alright, so use your darning, weaving, tapestry needle. Find the top of the bean stitch. Here's the body of the bean, so look for the top. Okay, there's the top. That's where I'm going to enter, right? So we'll yarn over, slice the icing off the top of the cake. We can remove that now. Yarn over, pull through to the front. 1, give ourselves slack. Yarn over. Do it again. 2, yarn over, go back in there. For 3, yarn over, go back in there. For 4, yarn over, go through all 9 loops. Try not to switch your yarn, and then chain 1. And now we have to do it again. We have to go back in there again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't forget, you guys can slow this down if I'm moving too fast for you. Alright, so that bean stitch has 2. This bean stitch has 2. That bean stitch has 2. And this bean stitch only has 1, but we're about to resolve that right now. So chain 1, and then over here, just go back into that same place where we put the bean stitch and make 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, go through all 9 loops, and then we're right next to the bean stitch, the first bean stitch of round 2, so we're just going to find the top, which is right there, you guys, and we're just going to slip stitch in there. Okay, so slice the icing off the top of the cake, yarn over, pull all the way through. Okay, now let's double check to make sure round 2 has 8 beans. So let's start with round 1, which should have 4 beans. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, it has 4 bean stitches. Now round 2, let's make sure it has 8 bean stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good, and that's where we started. So we've successfully increased on round 2. Now it's time to increase again for round 3. So pull up. That gets us to the height of round 3. Pulling up is kind of the substitute for chaining, okay? And now we're going to put our first bean stitch right in there, right in the same place where we slip stitch. So yarn over, enter, top of the stitch for 1, do it again, for 2, yarn over, do it again, for 3, yarn over, do it again, for 4. Okay? Yarn over, go through all 9 loops. Excellent. And remember, with that first one, you always make the second one when you get back around. Okay? By the way, the pattern for round 3, so the pattern for round 2 was just two stitches in every stitch. The pattern for round 3 is 2, 1. Okay? So technically this is going to be a 2 when we get back around. The next bean stitch right there will get the 1. So just look for the top of the bean stitch. Here's the top right there. You might think that's it, but that's the chain 1. Okay? That's the top right there. Okay? So that's where we're going to go. Slice the icing off the top of the cake, yarn over, pull through to the front. Okay, 1. Let's do it again. Back in there. For 2. Back in there. For 3. Back in there. For 4. Have our 9 loops, yarn over, turn our hook, and go through all 9 loops. Okay? And chain 1. Now remember, you guys, the pattern is 2, 1. Technically, that first one is going to be the 2, even though it only has 1 in it right now. We will add the second bean when we get back around. So this one, we're done with it because it has the 1. Okay? So 2, 1. Now it's time to repeat the pattern. So the next bean will get 2. Okay? And remember, I don't want you to go into the chain 1s. That's the chain 1. This right here is the top of the bean. See how the top right there is over the bean? This top is kind of over that space. That's the chain 1 in between. So make sure you go into the top of the bean. Okay? Alright, so yarn over, slice the icing off the top of the bean, yarn over. That's 1, yarn over, re-enter. 2, yarn over, re-enter. 3, yarn over, re-enter. 4, yarn over, go through all 9 loops. Alright, chain 1. But remember, this is a 2, so we're going to go back in there and do it again. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright. So it's looking good. The next bean will only get 1, so don't forget to chain 1. And then here's the next bean. That's the top right there, so that's where we're going to go. Yarn over, slice the icing off the top of the bean, and put 1 bean stitch in there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, go through all 9 loops. Okay, chain 1. Alright, so remember the pattern is 2, 1, 2, 1. So this is where we started. That's technically a 2, even though you only see 1 bean. Remember, we're going to put that second bean when we get back around. So 2, 1 bean. 2, 1 bean. And the next one is going to get 2 beans. So slice the icing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, go through everything. Make sure your hook is turned. Chain 1. Back in there for a second bean. Yarn over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, go through everything. And that's the 2. So 2 beans are now in there. Chain 1. Pattern continues. So the next bean will get 1. So that next bean is right there. So slice the icing. And let's create the 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, go through everything. Alright. 2, 1. So the next one gets a 2. Don't forget to chain 1. Remember, that's the chain 1 in between. This is the top of the bean. So that's where we're going to go to put our 2 beans. Slice the icing. 1, 2, and I lost it. It's okay. So 1, 2, 3, one more time. 4, yarn over, go through all 9 loops. Alright. Chain 1, go back in there for the 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, yarn over, go through everything. Okay, so now that's 2. Chain 1, and this next bean, that's going to get a 1. And remember, once again, that's the chain 1 in between the beans. This is the top of the bean right there. So that's where we enter. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Pull all the way through. Get your hook turned. Okay? Alright, chain 1. And now we're back to the beginning, but remember, this is where we need the 2, right? Right now this bean only has 1. So we're going to go into that same place where we put that first bean. Okay, you can see that loop right there. That's where we pulled up, right? That's what that is. Okay, so we're going to go back in there. So yarn over, go into the top of that bean, which is there, and make a bean. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, turn your hook, and go through all 9 loops. Alright, and now we're going to chain 1 and just slip stitch into the top of the bean. Just kind of move your bean over. There's the top right there, and we'll slip stitch into the top of it. Okay, so round 3 should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 beans. Okay, so round 1 had 4 beans. 1, 2, 3, 4. Round 2, we doubled that, had 8 beans. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now round 3, what we just completed, has 12. So starting there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, now it's time for round 4. So pull up. Remember, you always put your first bean right where you slip stitched. So yarn over, go in there 4 times, 3, and the 4th time, 4. Turn your hook, okay, and chain 1. And for the rounds where we increase, round 4 is one of those rounds, we always put that second stitch in there when we get back around. If you happen to have a stitch marker, it's not necessary, but if it helps you, you can always put your stitch marker on, and then you'll know clearly when it's time to, put that second bean in there. Okay, now the pattern for round 4 is 2, 1, 1. Okay, so technically this is 2. We'll add the second one when we get around. So 2, the 2 is taken care of. That means the next 2 beans will get only 1 bean. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. So that's the chain 1 in between. This is the top of the bean right there. So slice the icing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, pull through everything. Alright, chain 1. So that got 1. The next one will get 1. Remember, that's the chain 1, so make sure you go into the top of the bean, which is there, and put a bean. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, chain 1. Okay, so that bean got 1, that bean got 1, and now it's time to repeat the pattern. So the next one will get 2. So yarn over, find the top. Here's the bean, there's the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. chain 1, go back in there for 2. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's our 2. See, that bean has 2. And now we put 1 in the next 2. So chain 1, next bean gets 1. Chain 1, and the next bean gets 1, which is there. Chain 1. Okay, so you always chain 1 after the beans, but you can see the pattern kind of developing before your eyes. So this is where I started. Remember, this technically is a 2, but we'll put the second one there when we get around. So 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1. This next one will get 2, and then 1, 1, and so on and so forth. Okay, so continue working on this, and I'll meet you once we get back around there. See you soon. Alright, so I am back around, as you can see by the presence of the stitch marker. Okay, so we're almost done, but remember, we always start our increase rounds with 2. However, this first bean right there only has 1, so when we get back around, that's where we put the second one in there. Okay, that's when we put the second. So yarn over, slice the icing. You might be tempted to go in there. No, remember, this is where we go because we're working in that first bean. And put your bean. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, go through all 9 loops. Alright, chain 1. And now we'll remove this stitch marker. And you guys don't need this. This was just to help you see what's what, okay? And we're going to slip stitch into that bean like that. Alright, so I'm going to start one more increase round for you guys just to make sure you've got it, because I know this is kind of an interesting stitch. It's a different stitch, but it is beautiful and it feels amazing. Amazing it feels, okay? Alright, so the way we start any round when making the bean stitches, we pull up on the loop. Remember, that's a substitute for the chain 3, okay? Now we yarn over, slice the icing off the top of the cake, top of the bean stitch, and we do that 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, go through all 9 loops, chain 1. If you want, you can use your stitch marker and mark that stitch, because this is an increase round. We need to put 2 stitches in that first bean. Right now it only has 1. This one bean, that first bean, only has 1, right? But it's going to need 2. So that stitch marker can remind you that, hey, you need to put another bean stitch in there. And it can also remind you when you've gotten back around, okay? So the pattern for round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 2, 1, 1, 1. Before it was 2, 1, 1. Right? 2, 1, 1. Before that, it was 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay? So the last one was 2, 1, 1, and then it started over at 2. This one is going to be 2, 1, 1, 1, and then 2. Okay? So this is the 2. Next one, we'll put a 1. And if you're, see how that kind of got twisted, went through, just take it out and make sure that the loops are as you want them. So yarn over, slice the icing. Okay, 1, 2. That's kind of why I like to pull back. 3, like to the right. 4, to move the loops along the crochet hook. Okay, and go through everything. Chain 1. Okay, so that's 2 for the first one. 1, and then I have another 1 in the next one. So next one gets a 1. Okay, chain 1. Next one gets a 1, which is there. So I got my 2, 1, 1, 1, and now the pattern repeats with 2, right? So chain 1, this one will get 2. Alright, so the next one will get 2. This is my 2, 1, 1, 1. Now it's time for a 2, the pattern repeat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Chain 1, go back in there and do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Chain 1. Okay, so that one has 2. Alright, I'm using a lot of 1s and 2s, and right? So just to make sure you got it, I'm going to do it one more time. So, okay, so that's 2. Okay, the next one will get a 1. So I slice the icing off the top of the bean stitch. So I'm going to say A, B, C, and D, just to let you know to go in there 4 times. A, B, C, D. Okay, chain 1. The next one gets a 1. Slice the icing off the top of the stitch. A, B, C, and back in there for D. Okay, chain 1. And the next one gets 1, which is there. A, B, C, D. Okay, chain 1. So 2, 1, 1, 1. Now it's time for a 2 again. So slice the icing. A, B, C, D. Okay, chain 1. Because this is the pattern repeat, we put a second bean stitch in that same place. So we go back in there for A, B, C, and D. Okay, chain 1. And now we have 3 1s. So the next 3 beans will get 1 bean. So A, B, C, D. Chain 1. Next stitch. A, B, C, D. Chain 1. Next stitch. A, B, C, D. Chain 1. Next stitch. So remember, you should have, the pattern is 2, 1, 1, 1. So 2 and 3 1s. Okay? So we did 2, 1, 2, 3. This next one, the pattern repeats. So this one's going to get 2. So A, B, C, D. Chain 1. Back in there for the 2. So A, B, C, D. Chain 1. Okay, so that's our 2. Now we have 1, 1, 1. And that works because we have 3 more beans left, right? So next one, we'll get just 1. So that's A, B, C, D. Chain 1. Next stitch gets 1. A, B, C, D. Chain 1. Next stitch gets 1. A, B, C, D. Chain 1. And now we're back around. So when we see that stitch marker, or we see we're back around, that should remind us that we need to go back into that bean and put a second bean, because remember, when you're doing increase rounds, it always, that first stitch always gets 2 beans. So let's look before. 2, 1, 1, 1, and then the pattern repeat will be there. So this should have 2, and then 1, 1, 1, 2, and so on. Okay? Alright, so we will do that. Go in there. Don't try to slip stitch. Go in to the top of the bean. and make your bean. So A, B, C, one more time, D. Yarn over, turn your hook and go through all 9 loops. Alright, chain 1. Now we move the stitch marker. And we're going to slip stitch into the top of that bean. Like that. Okay. So that is what you should have. That is what it should look like. Okay. So I'm going to continue doing some more increase rounds. You can continue increasing until this circle, the diameter, is big enough to fit the crown of the head that you're making it for. I will let you know what that is for me once I add some more rounds, okay? But the important thing is to keep adding a 1 to your pattern. So remember, you always start with 2, even though you don't put that second one in until you get back around. So for instance, this one is 2, 1, 1, 1. So it was a 2 and 3 1s. The next one will be 2 and then 4 1s, and then the pattern repeat. 2, 4 1s. The next round after that will be 2 and 5 1s, and so on and so forth. Okay, maybe this is already big enough. Maybe you're making this for a child, so you don't need to make it any bigger. If that's the case, then just wait until I get back on and I show you how to maintain the number of stitches per round. Okay, focus on the pattern right now and not so much how many stitches you have. Okay, if you focus on the pattern and make sure you're maintaining it, then you will automatically have the correct number of stitches. See you soon. Alright, so I'm back around. As you can see, the stitch marker is there, and this is the final round of increase that I'm going to make. This is almost 7.5 inches across, and that's about 19 centimeters, okay, FYI. So at this point, I am going to start my non-increase rounds, my maintenance rounds. But before I do, I'm going to complete this. Remember, you always wait till you come back around to put that second bean stitch in there, okay? So don't slip stitch in there. Go down to where you put the first bean stitch, which is there, okay? And don't forget to chain 1 as well. Alright, so we're going to go in there and put the second one in there. Alright, chain 1, and now we slip stitch into the top of that bean stitch. Okay. Another way to figure out, and this is for your increase rounds, when that increase should be happening, is, for instance, this round, the pattern was 2 beans and then 6, right? So here's the 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 2 again, right? The next one, if we were still to increase, this one would be 2, and then it would be 7. So the 2 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 2 would be here, so the 2 would be in that one, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The way you know when to increase again is see the grouping of 2 beans there? You have that bean and you have that bean. You would always increase in that second bean, okay? That's another way to know or to confirm that you're increasing in the appropriate bean. So that's where your 2 would go. And then counting again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? And then in that next one, the second bean again, that's where the 2 beans would go. And then counting again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so those are the 7 1 beans, and then in that next one, that second bean, see how there are 2? That second bean, that's where you increase, okay? So that's just another way to figure out, where you should be increasing. But we're done with increasing, so let's get to the maintenance rounds. Alright, so I'm just going to show you one. I'm going to show you how to start one, and then it's cake. It's easier than what we've been doing. So pull up. Remember, that's the substitute for the chain 3. And then we're going to put 1 bean in every stitch around. So right in the same place where we slip stitch, that's where we're going to put our bean. A, B, C, D. Yarn over, turn our hook, and go through all 9 loops. Chain 1. Alright, and when we get back around, don't worry about putting another bean stitch in that same place because it only gets 1 bean. So I'll put this stitch marker there just so you clearly see where the beginning is. Alright, so we've chained 1, now we go and put a bean in the next one. 1, 2, C, D. Alright, 1 bean is now in that one. Chain 1. Next one, A, B, C, D. Alright, chain 1. So 1 is in that one. And the thing I like about this is that it kind of curves. It just looks really cool. Okay, so just continue putting 1 bean in every bean stitch around and I'll see you there. Alright, so I made my way around. And FYI, if you're wondering how many beans you should have at this point, you should have 32 if you have increased the same number of rounds as me. Alright, don't forget this last bean to put a bean in there just before this one, okay? And remember, when you start the next round, you won't go in there to put a second bean because that will give that bean 2 beans. What you will do instead is just slip stitch into the bean like that, because we're done with increased rounds and that means every bean will only get 1 bean. So this bean has a bean, that bean has a bean. Okay, makes sense? I'm going to do this for several more rounds, probably 7 or 8. Then I'll check back in. We're almost done, you guys. See you soon. Alright, so I am done now with this, and you can see from the stitch marker I have done 7 rounds of non-increase, so just putting 1 bean in every bean below. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and now I've connected by slip stitching. I'm going to chain 1, cut my yarn, and fasten off. Now I'm going to go on the inside, go through a couple of loops, and I'm going to bring that tail in. If you have a smaller crochet hook, this would be easier to do, but it's not necessary, as you see. So yarn over, pull through, but before pulling all the way through, I'm going to chain 1, and now pull through. Okay, you can use your darning weaving tapestry needle to weave this tail in. I'm not going to do that because I like it to serve as my tag for the back, but I will cut it down like I just did. Okay, take the stitch marker out, and yeah, that's gonna be it for this cat. Let me zoom out a little bit so I can show you something. Alright, so if you remember at the beginning of this video, I started with 4 beans in round 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? I've heard of people complaining about their hats having members, or I assume they're talking about this little pucker, right? One way to avoid that is to start out with more beans. Okay, so basically this sometimes happens, like that little pucker, when you try to increase too quickly, I think it is. So for instance, if you started out with 6 beans and then continued the pattern the same way I went on, then it wouldn't be that drastic of a change. But I went from 4 and then I doubled and then I increased, so it gave it kind of a point. In the next video, remember this is kind of like the Choose Your Adventure series. In the next video, I am going to be adding a pom-pom to this. Okay, so I kind of want that point. Okay, so if you want to learn how to add a pom-pom, then definitely check out the next video. But I think the little pucker, if you will, is appropriate for that. Okay, so depending on how you wear the hat, if it's meant to just be like really flat, then it may not be as noticeable. But this is going to have a pom-pom, so it'll be perfect for it. Alright? Alright, I think that is it for this video. So, yeah. See you in the next one. In the meantime, happy crocheting!